Yeah, I just didn't want to go over time. It's not that I didn't want to share the story with you. But God is so good. We do go to the places where there's not a Christian presence. We finally got blessed with a trip to Haiti this Christmas to do work with an orphanage over there and stuff, and I'm having to turn it down because I went to this place in South Dakota called Cherry Creek. It's actually the poorest county in the country, and I saw how difficult they have it there, so that's where we're going to spend Christmas with the natives. We really do go to the poorest people in the darkest places in the country and do ministry. But I didn't always do that. I mean, we do travel together as a family. I have another son that's not here, Joshua. He discovered young ladies. So he's not here with us. He wanted to be. He'd heard a lot us talking about this area here, and he wanted to come. But he's got to find his way with the young lady, and it's kind of difficult for people in today's world to really understand walking in faith and going to people who have nothing and how you're going to survive and raise a family and that. So we're praying for our son Joshua. But we didn't always do this. Like I said, we started together as a family doing ministry, but let me go back. Like I said earlier, I was rejected by the church at a very young age when I was in college, and I won't get into all that, but the pastor didn't understand, and I didn't understand him, not understanding why God calling me to the ministry. And so I left, and I share this because Satan's always right there when we turn and walk away, and he'll use us when the church won't, or when we walk away from the Lord. And that's what happened with me. I was a songwriter, musician, and Nashville Songwriters Association, Los Angeles Songwriters Association. I had wrote a lot of music, and it was all secular. And we knew the movie industry was coming to Florida, to Orlando, so we started this venue. I started this organization called the Florida Songwriters Association. It grew, it got really huge, really fast. So I went to a place in Ybor City, a historic district of Tampa, and I found an old abandoned theater and a bunch of old, beautiful real estate. And but it was boarded up because it was just a crack area, and white people didn't go in the day, and black people didn't go at night. And I got with a real estate developer and made a deal, and I said, I can get people to come down here. I can develop tourism. I can get the whole thing going with music being the theme if you can get me these buildings. And so he began to provide buildings, and I began to bring people down, and it got really huge, really fast. And at the end, we had what I'm really known for is really promoting and getting the death metal industry going in America. We had a theater where we did 1,000 kids per show, two shows a night, and predominantly death metal music. And the building next door was, we would do 8 to 10 bands, and it was like a big mosh pit. 2,000 to 3,000 kids coming in and just getting violent. Did industrial music, gutter punk, and skinhead music. Above that was an open loft, but it was open homosexuality practice. Above the theater was 7 apartments where we had a practicing vampire living upstairs and 2 practicing witches. And on the corner I had an apartment for entertainment purposes. By this time I was highly addicted to cocaine and alcohol and all that goes with that world and lifestyle. And on the bottom was a dinner theater that I had set up as a restaurant, coffee house, and it was a concert venue and just a really a neat kind of place, kind of like this one, but I really had just found a way to get around a lot of laws. It's a cheap way to not have to sign up with the mob and get a full liquor license so that I could then serve wet zone the whole area and begin to sell alcohol throughout the complex. God in His grace and His mercy, I went into the theater one night, I listened to one of the bands, and it was evil. I could feel it, and I was like, what is that? It's like evil. And then God in His grace and mercy reminded me of a band I had in the hardcore side, a band called Pagan Faith, and how they talked about from their stage what Jesus Christ could do to them sexually. And it really hit me. I exposed a couple thousand kids to that, and how bad it was, because Jesus always meant something to me. He was like when the government didn't make sense, and the family doesn't make sense, and school doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense. Jesus always, he made sense. He made life make sense. He made life worth living. Jesus was something very special to me, and I realized that what evil is that it would destroy Jesus if it could, and what I had started was evil. I thought it was just to make money, and everybody was selling music and CDs. We had kids like what is now called Marilyn Manson. Y'all probably wouldn't know who that is, but this is the kind of, he was one of our kids. That was the scene we were always developing, and but I never took it seriously until that night. And then I knew it was evil, and what evil was against Jesus. So I tried to shut it down, and God in His grace and mercy helped me get out. And it was by giving me my son, and the doctors kind of pushing me to make this decision to let him die. And I did, because my financial situation would change, and my lifestyle would change. And in that time I was very successful, and they just said it's not worth it, because he's never going to be anything but a vegetable. I really wrestled with that, and that's when I cried out to God, and I said, God, I don't understand this. I didn't know it was legal, but I can't just let him die. I've held him, he's alive. If you'll keep him alive, I'll do whatever you say the rest of my life. And that started this process of us going through all these incredibly hard, crazy surgeries, and always state-of-the-art surgeries. We would wait for the technology to catch up, and then they would do another surgery on him. And through that process of surgeries on him, God was doing surgery on me. He was healing me and making me whole. But how He was doing it, He was breaking me, constantly breaking me, and making me face things in life I didn't want to face, the hard things, the difficult things. And in that process, He was healing me and making me whole. I said, God, why does it hurt so much if you're healing me? Why am I crying all the time? He says, because that's how I'm healing you, I'm making you whole. And that's how you get there. Through this, though, it began a walk of obedience, and that's how I ended up. I first worked just with a handicap. I wrote a song for my son. Then I started going to the handicap and then to the streets. God introduced me to homeless people. I didn't know they existed before that, and He broke my heart there. And I started going to the homeless people, and it was a series of obedience walks that He had a purpose for my life. I started realizing, not just for my son, who could change somebody like me, but God maybe could even use me. He could maybe even use me after my most difficult and crazy past. He could maybe use me to make a difference down here. And that gave me a reason for living, and I went from homeless to drug addicts to then prisons, and then bikers. We do a lot of biker ministry, and then Native Americans, then witches and Wicca. It was kind of a progression, or some would call it a digression, as I was more and more obedient, and God took me to the places. And I don't put it on anybody else for not going to witches. I wouldn't go to witches either, or Wicca, or any of that. It is a dark place, but because of this crazy past I had, I'm able to go there. I'm able to go and minister. And we didn't have time tonight, but I wanted to share one of my daughter's songs in case any of you wonder what happens to children that go to ministry. It ain't about going to dark places and all. It's about being obedient to God. That's why we do what we do, and I'm so blessed. Because I could not have done the job with my children that God has done by me walking in obedience. When Bo, who is now 23, when Bo was 13, they had to take his face apart again. It was a major surgery. They prepared us he might not live through it. And so when they went to do that surgery, and we didn't know what to do because they had told us he might die, he might not make it through, but to give him something to look forward to, because he was going to have 3 months of recovery time, we had to sit basically paralyzed, and we would have to feed him through a syringe because they mounted a halo to his head with screws inside his skull and a stainless steel beam down the front with a piece of hardware and 2 cables into each side of his nose and 2 into each side of his upper palate, and they clamped it together with a piece of hardware in there. They pulled the skin down, they broke the bone at the base of the skull, sewed him back up, and then we would literally screw his face forward twice a day until they got it out where they wanted it. I didn't know what to do. It was Christmas. faith ministry, we don't have much. And I said, God, what do I do? And he said, get a keyboard. And I bought a keyboard for the family Christmas present. A really cheap Yamaha keyboard. Bo taught himself to play. This is the truth. He taught himself to play. He then learned my songs. He taught his little sister to play, and then he learned my song, taught her my songs, and he built this band that you just heard because he wanted to sing harmony with his daddy. He's not supposed to be able to talk, okay? And I was there for all the therapists. I seen it. It's a real story, and it's a real miracle. And when he was 13 years old, he built this band that you just heard play behind me, and that is a miracle. And I wanted to share it with you because my God is incredible.